And Miles Hunt's going to take the microphone now, everybody. So can we give him a round of applause for his campaign trail exploits?
I'll just give you an update of the election. We're still in the hunt for a Senate seat in Queensland, Victoria, WA and New South Wales. So it'll take a week or two to find out where the preference flow goes. But, because our party is across the spectrums, we don't judge. We have people from all walks of life. We're the broad church. We accept everyone. And so our preferences might flow our way and we might get a couple of Senate seats, which would be incredible. Woo. So, and also, importantly, we're getting above 4% in virtually every place we ran, which means we will probably get some electoral funding from the AEC. So for a political party to become a force, you need to spend some money, get that money back by getting over 4%, and then reinvest it into you. So that's how the established parties have got a lot more capacity to have people on the ground, volunteers, etc. All our volunteers were just people volunteering their time, facing that. People who were candidates had to be brave enough to tell their friends that they were representing, they were campaigning for legalised cannabis, come out. It's quite tough at times. I mean, I noticed that. When I'll tell you my road to how I got to here to the campaign. It started about a year ago when I applied to run, and I got chosen to be the lead Senate candidate. And Michael Balderstone, he's number 2. We're a team. He's my chief advisor on all this sort of stuff. And Dan McHugh here, he's been the media guy on the tour. He's done a lot of work, right? So I couldn't have done it without him. And you need people. As I said before, it's a team. This politics, getting out there and meeting people and being on the hustings and chatting and hearing people's stories. It's awesome. It's incredible. And I think it'd be a fantastic job if I get into the Senate or in the future in the state parliament or whatever happens in the future. It'll be incredible because it's so amazing to hear people's stories, to just chat with people. But you need a team around you, and you need people there who got other skills, and because it can get a bit tiring and lonely at times. But anyway, I think because I've got to expedite my thing, I've sort of gone off script. But here we go. Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, named after one of my favourite writers, Hunter S. Thompson. He had this great quote, about in his book Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, which was about the Nixon and McGovern election, I think. And he wrote a great there was a little piece I'm going to read to you, which I love, which I think is pretty apt. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and a place to be part of. Maybe it meant something, maybe not, in the long run, but no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there alive in that corner of time and the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hard bullshit, but even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash for reasons that nobody really understands at that time and which never explain in retrospect what actually happened. There was madness in any direction, at any hour. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. The sense that the inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil, not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. And then he ends sadly, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high watermark, that place where that wave finally broke and rolled back. And, I think that's appropriate because we're part of a movement for change now. This party and this cannabis culture and this history of rebellion and prohibition, which centres in Nimbin, right? We're part of something here. We're growing. It's a movement that's building. And so I hope that the wave doesn't break and rolls back because they'll push that. And but I think we will prevail because we're right. The forces of prohibition, of 100 years of prohibition, were wrong. It has been the wrong. It's been a failed policy, and and I think the hardest thing to change is getting the forces that allowed that to happen to admit that mistake, and that's why that's the fight we're trying to win. So anyway, I don't know, what do we got next? Oh yeah, that's me on the front page in 2013, coming out as the drug-taking lawyer. Had some kids, got out of the movement, came back last year. Michael invited me back to speak about that 10 years on. Okay, go to the next one. Yeah, back in MardiGrass 2024, and that's what I started. I came here and I thought, these are my people. I'm talking to people that I can really associate with, and we're on the same wavelength and we believe in the same thing. So on that day, I committed myself to being back part of the movement. And so it was, at first I started to do a podcast, try to do that, and then the opportunity arose to apply to be the candidate, and I did. And I had to give up my British passport in case I got elected, because you can't have two citizenships. But it's nice to give up something. It means something to you, And then the other thing that was hard was I moved to a small town a few years ago, and near Port Macquarie, and you have to get used to the. Like in Sydney, everyone knew me. They knew I'd done drugs with people. We'd smoked cannabis. We knew each other's history. So it's easy to come out about your own personal use and be proud and to campaign and get out there. But then you go to a new town, you don't know people, and then I had to overcome that stigma. Hey, come on, if I'm going to be the candidate, I've got to get out there and tell people in my community that I am running for the Legalise Cannabis Party, that I believe in cannabis legalisation, that I smoke cannabis, whatever it is. And that is hard to do. It reminded me of the stigma that people face every day for using cannabis. And I thought, I have to run for me personally to overcome that stigma for myself, but also because it represents the stigma that all of us face every day. All right, what have we got next? 2020, yeah, I mean, that's just, what the stigma, that's just coming out versus coming out then now. It's been really good. I think my workers are supportive, which helps. Not everyone who runs, we need more candidates in the Legalise Cannabis Party. We're going to have some money to spend. We need more candidates, more people to be running volunteer booths to represent their community. And we need good people in it, and if anyone can help and be part of that movement, I think in the next 3 years we're going to be a really effective party, and we're now the 5th largest political party in Australia after the coalition Labor, Greens, One Nation, now us. So if anyone else here or you know of anyone who would like to be part of it, it would be fantastic, because we've got to build that movement. And I think, it's changing this stigma. I feel like 10 years later now, it was harder then in the past than it is now. And a lot of that is medicinal cannabis has opened people's eyes to the wonders of this plant. And I know, I've just got my mother-in-law onto CBD oil for a bad back and, arthritis stuff, and my mum, I'm trying to get her for anxiety. And these people would, may in the past have just thought, marijuana's bad. Now they say, well, hang on, this is cannabis is good for me. It's changing my life in a positive way. So I think that 2016 legalisation of medicinal cannabis was the most important step in the movement in recent times. And I think you've got to remember, when we do these campaigns and movements, you need little steps. You've got to take the little wins. And at the drug summit last year with the state government, it wasn't the best. There were some great people writing in great things and talking about cannabis legalisation and decriminalisation of drugs, but the government didn't have the courage to go down that far. But the report has admitted the need to fix drug driving laws in some capacity. So that's a win. They've admitted the need that sniffer dogs are wrong at festivals and the like. They cause more problematic use and harm. So you've got to take those little wins. I've been in this movement for 15 years and doing unharm and drug law reform, and you got to, it's a slow win with this sort of thing. So I think it's inevitable. History will absolve us. In 5 or 10 years, cannabis will be legal, and we'll look back at this time as, whatever, the failures of prohibition, and it'll be part of our culture. But you've got to take the little wins to get there. All right. What are we at? We've done that one. I've spoke on that. Legalised Cannabis Party, yes. I was accepted to run for the Cannabis Party, and then this year was turned to the campaign trail. So it was hard for we didn't have. Do you want to play one of our videos? I'll do one of the videos, because just one about whichever one you like.
Yeah, I'm here just having a beer out the front of my house, which is a nice thing to do. Although alcohol does cause about 1,750 deaths a year directly from alcohol poisoning, cirrhosis of the liver, things like that. Cannabis 0 direct deaths a year. Incredibly, that's the one that's illegal. This poison is legal. I'm not saying ban alcohol, but we certainly should be legalising cannabis. It's unfair that people are criminalised for that choice of the drug they use, especially as a low-risk drug like cannabis. Anyway, let's live in a world where you can enjoy a beer safely, responsibly, but you can also enjoy a joint or however you want to consume your cannabis. Whether it's THC oil or a hash cookie. If you do it in a safe way, why not? Where's the harm? Let's legalise.
There you go.
Cheers to that.
All right, so we had
Authorised by S. Lucan, Legalise Cannabis Party 302/183 Macquarie Street, Sydney, New South Wales 2000.
All right. Now, so Dan came on board and offered to help me, right? And he'd volunteered his time and said, you need to do a media strategy, you need to get some social media, you need to be making videos to create some content. So turns out, though, that we can't advertise these on Facebook. So we had a bit of, our party, we had to do all these content and stuff like this and put it out and hope that there's some organics sending, because there's no way we can get paid on Meta or Facebook or any of these things. They just won't take it. They won't allow it because it's cannabis. And then there was a risk if we went and chose one of our videos or ads and promoted it by paying like you can, that they would then dump our whole Facebook pages that Suzette had set up for each of our candidates. So we couldn't do it, right? We were being, that stigma moved to the fact that we couldn't promote our political party in the same way all the other political parties could do it. They could pay for advertising, we couldn't. So we just had to come up and do what we could best, which is just make some videos, say some important things about justice, about this issue, try to have a bit of a laugh and make some fun ones. I think you guys at the beginning, we had the VB one where we did a pretend on the VB ad, the old VB ads, and then compared that to smoking joints. And the point of that parody is that in our culture, you can celebrate drinking. You can go to the pub, it's cool, but it's a stigma to smoke a joint. Now that is absurd. That's a ridiculous irony. So we wanted to make some sort of little parodies about that, and that sort of points that there as well. We were up against it from the beginning. What do you got? Yeah. That's it. We were up against it with donations. It was hard to get donations from people. People put in money, grassroots. We were collecting $20 off people here and there, our friends and family, everyone, which was awesome. And that goes all into the campaign. And then the videos and the Facebook and the Instagram, we set them up and we had to try and build it all organically. And we had a lot of difficulty getting, your media any interest from us in the beginnings. We were emailing media releases to them on weekly basis, trying to get a little hook to talk to us. Nothing for months before the election. And then even all through those first weeks of the campaign, nothing until this last 2 weeks we started getting community radio stations and community newspapers come and talk to us. And then we got on Kyle and Jackie O and Triple M and all these people. They started going, oh, hang on, these cannabis mob, they've got something to say. They're interesting, they're unique, and that was cool. But it was a bit of a struggle to get that point, because at the beginning there was a bit of that that stigma, shame, oh, we don't want to talk to the Cannabis Party. Turns out we are a party of change. Actually, if our society criminalised cannabis for 100 years and locked people up for this plant that turns out to be medicine, and our society is fucked up so many things, well, maybe we should listen to the people who were right about cannabis all along. So that's been cool to see that sort of. There's been I can see a shift over this campaign trail, where, and I've spoken to a lot of people on the pre-polls. People out there. This last week we've been travelling all around the coast, going to pre-polls, Singleton, Cessnock. I don't know. Do you want to go? Yeah. Here we go. There's Lizzie. Should we play Lizzie?
Plant a seed and change your life. This is the most amazing vegetable you'll ever find. Never killed a soul, unlike that drug industry that's number 3 killer in the world. The building materials from hemp are fireproof. Mate, we need this plant. Stop chopping down the trees, just grow hemp. It's renewable, it's amazing.
Brilliant, you heard it here first. There you go. There's Lizzie, one of our volunteers Now, last week I was in Port Macquarie. This was on the by-election because we've been so busy this week we haven't been able to do any videos, but we've been capturing videos at all the places where we can. And Leslie was in Kempsey last week, or the week before, every day on the pre-polls, turning up, the first one there, setting up, handing out, talking to everyone. And that's the story. Like, we went to Singleton, I met this guy, Mike, who was cannabis. He had brain seizures. He meant he couldn't speak until he found medicinal cannabis, and it's changed his life. And now he's out there every day handing out flyers and pre-poll, And these are the people that make the party. We're a grassroots party. Everyone likes that one, grassroots. But yeah, we genuinely rely on all these volunteers who believe in the cause of cannabis and of decriminalising nature and the plant medicines and the like. And that whole, that was the greatest experience for me on this campaign trail, was meeting all these people who put in their time and effort. Because if these people put in thousands of hours handing out cards, there was a guy, Keys Manley, and he was running for Lion, who's wearing a corflute over his thing for days, walking around Taree, like these country towns with legalised cannabis on it, just trying to get people to, see us, notice us, and consider us in the election. But ultimately, if we win a Senate seat because of that in New South Wales, I am the one who gets a $300,000 job. These people get nothing. They're doing it because they are the champions of the cause. Like they're heroes to me. So that was the best bit, meeting all these people. Anyway, what are we at? Oh yeah, there were our videos we did. I don't think we got time for doing all the videos. How are we going for time? 12:50. 9 more minutes. Here's all the volunteers and photos. We've got some of these people here in the audience. That was at the by-election in Port Macquarie. We got like 8% of the vote there, Megan Matthew, which was amazing. And then, people turning up each day, putting the corflutes up. These people, we're fighting against, the National Party had 4 or 5 volunteers on every booth. We had 1 or 2 at best, sometimes 0. In Port Macquarie, we didn't have enough people on the booth, so we had people driving around just putting corflutes up. There were some booths in Sydney. We only ran in about 12 seats in New South Wales, and there's about 40 seats. So that's the lower house seats. So people were getting votes in the Senate where we didn't have anyone on the ground. We didn't have any volunteers. So if you can imagine the fact that we just got a 4 to 5% vote across the country, and we're in the running in 4 seats, and yet it was a struggle for us to get candidates, a struggle to get donations. We didn't have enough volunteers. We were out-resourced by all the other major parties at least 100 times. Think of the potential. If we now we build that and we take some of the money and that we get from the commission and we invest and people out there see the value of this party, that we've got good people in it that care, that are right, then we can create a movement for change that wins. Inevitably we will win this battle. In this war, the war on drugs. That's the failure. And we're going to win that. And I think just having the momentum and the people on the ground, and I think from this election, our brand will be better, and the stigma will be down a notch, and more people will be able to say, I like the Legalised Cannabis Party, because during the campaign, at the beginning, they're like, you're just a one policy party. That was the main joke. And we're like, no, we're a way of life. We're about legalising this cannabis plant that's can create an entire industry, decriminalising nature, saying we made a mistake in the first place. We're about releasing this incredible crop, the hemp industry, having this incredible medicinal cannabis industry, changing sustainability with hempcrete and hemp clothing and a product that grows well and is versatile and is useful and is sustainable and sequesters carbon from the atmosphere. We've got this crop, we've got this plant that is literally like a gift from God. It was demonized as the devil's plant. Yeah. So, the funny thing is, classic humans. The greatest plant we ever got given, we criminalised it for 100 years. So it's anyway, what do we got next? Oh yeah, we did that, mainstream media. Market stalls, we hit some market stalls. There was me at Tuncurry, that was fun. And I went out to them, and so many people came to us and talked to us and signed on to the petitions and joined the party, and it gave me, that gives you confidence. You go around and you're one of the busy stalls that people are interested in. What else have we got? I think we're near the end here. Oh yeah, next one, last one. From one more. Market stalls. Anyway, we'll go on. Mardi Gras to Mardi Gras. It's the end. So here's the campaign itself proper. Started at the MardiGrass in Sydney. The Legalise Cannabis we had a giant leaf and we marched down, and it was huge. And we got a standing ovation, like thousands of people. Like I felt a rock star. We had like about 20 of us walking with leaves, and Suzette with a few people there, and this giant cannabis leaf that Pete Foster in Jeremy Buckingham's office. Jeremy was there. He organised it all. He's doing a great job, by the way, in the state parliament. He's pushing for change on a daily basis. So we should be proud of that. But it was awesome. All the other parties got Cannabis Party. They loved us, man. And then to start there, and then we did the campaign launch in Nimbin a couple of weeks ago, which was fantastic because this is the beating heart of the cannabis culture and the fight against prohibition. And Michael Balderstone and Gary, Max Stone, they organised that and they've done a great job, and we did the joint, and we're going to do it again today. So it feels cyclical. 2 weeks ago we started in Nimbin. We did a tour down through the regions, Newcastle, Singleton, Cessnock, Taree, Foster. We went Laurelton, Port Macquarie, Coffs Harbour, Grafton, went to Maclean. We went everywhere, and we went to polls and we talked to people, and 99.99% of people were really open and were really receptive. There was one crazy guy who threatened us with a metal pipe. He was angry about cannabis, but everyone else was lovely, and they were positive, and they were listening to what we had, and Dan was chatting to them all, the Nationals people, and he's trying to get them on board for hemp and realise the potential there. So that was awesome. And then to get back here, to finish here for the Mardi Gras weekend, is there a better way to finish a campaign than here? And then we had such a big success last night. It's whatever happens, if we get one senator, amazing, it'll be incredible, or more. But whatever happens, we've got the votes now. We're turning this movement that's existed for 50 years, 30 years through the fight for legalisation of cannabis into a genuine political force, and people are realising this party is more than just cannabis. It's about creating a new way of life. It's a revolutionary way of thinking, and it's awesome. Anyway, thank you.
Recently on air, Mark Levi from 2GB had a go at me. We asked for our chance to respond, right of reply, but he wouldn't have me on.
I don't know how this one got
This
through.
is on 2GB.
It's a media release from the Legalise Cannabis Party. For the record, I'm actually glad they're using email these days because they have been known to roll up their media releases in the past in an attempt to smoke them.
Sounds like Mark should get some new writers. That's a classic dad joke there. My 75-year-old father could do better, I reckon.
Well, April 20 actually falls on Easter Sunday here in Australia. Surely the cannabis mob understands the religious significance. It's a day to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Well, the Legalise Cannabis Party obviously understands that, yet they are still going to push on with their campaign launch for this Senate hopeful.
Mark's restaurant Pronto in Sylvania was open on Easter Sunday, ironically, and every Sunday for the last few years, which, fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, Mark. There's some suggestions that Jesus actually used cannabis as a healing ointment, which makes sense given its medicinal qualities. But, you probably didn't mind consuming for personal, recreational reasons too.
So while most Australians are tucking into some chocolate Easter eggs, we'll have a group of stoners up at Nimbin saying, vote for us, man.
We chose Easter Sunday because it was the 20th of April, 420. I mean, since the early 70s, that's been a day of celebration for the cannabis culture. So, I mean, Easter happened to fall on that same day this time, and it doesn't for another 62 years, but I'm sure when it does, Jesus will be celebrating. Pronto's Dirty Bird Toasty does sound delicious. Chicken, melted cheese, pesto, double cream infused chive, cream cheese. Sounds incredible, but geez, man, that could be a lesson in gluttony there, one of the 7 deadly sins.
Now, they've certainly given the police something to do on Sunday. If you want to do some revenue raising, just a gold mine up there.
Sending comps to Nimbin on 420 to arrest people is not a revenue raising, it's a waste of police resources. We spend billions a year enforcing these absurd drug laws for a plant that's legal medicinally. And 90% of those arrests for people for possession of small quantities. It's a shame and it's a waste. These are not crime lords, these are not big, huge drug operations. This is just, regular people who use cannabis recreationally.
According to a recent study in the United States, cannabis use disorder is a rapidly growing addiction in America. Laura Beirut is the MD Alumni Endowed Professor of Psychiatry at Washington University School of Medicine. She says the facts are clear: cannabis is addictive. Its use is on the rise, and those affected by cannabis use disorder face a heightened risk of premature death.
Addiction is real, but so is logic. We don't ban everything that's risky. Alcohol, sugar, driving. We regulate them. And if we were going to ban things that were risky, we'd start with your double cheese toasty, Mark, because heart disease kills more Australians every year than cannabis ever will. If you're into reason, compassion, and not criminalising a herbal leaf, look for the leaf. Vote Legalise Cannabis.
Authorised by S. Lucan, Legalise Cannabis Party 302/183 Macquarie Street, Sydney, New South Wales 2000.
So that's the stigma that we face. So anyway, cool.
That's totally cool. Well done, guys. That's awesome media. Yeah.
Do it without Dan, right?
Okay, thank you, Dan.